Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules. We so appreciate you and just appreciate your heart and your concern for the children of the world. We've been fighting child trafficking for over 22 years. And some of you, I recognize some of the names. I see them on the screens. And so if I'm actually looking up, then it's just because I'm seeing your names and just saying hi and excited. I love it. But we've been fighting this for over 22 years, and we started on the Thai-Burma border. And how that happened was I was in Tulsa, and this was at a time where nobody had heard about child trafficking. Nobody had heard about child exploitation. We knew of different things, but I was 24 years old, and I started hearing about how 8-year-old girls' virginity would go for as much as $3,000 down in Bangkok. I started hearing about businessmen going to the armpit of the world, which was Bangkok, and that was basically the human trafficking hub and the child trafficking hub. And at that time, it had the largest amount of children that were forced into prostitution. It is still true to this very day, but with Brazil rivaling a close, it's number 2, but we believe it's number 1 up there. And so I started hearing about this and started hearing how businessmen from different parts of the world, they would think that children couldn't carry HIV, or that if you slept with a child, that it would be able to take it away, and so I started hearing about these atrocities 22 years ago. And I knew at that moment I had to do something. And I really applaud you guys for being on this call right now, because I'm so thankful for the movie, The Sound of Freedom, that's come out. Because when I started hearing this and trying to talk about the things that we were seeing, and the fight that we had for these children, for their humanity, for their innocence, for their lives, nobody wanted to hear it. But I think now it's gone on so long that we have to do something about it. So I heard about it, and I knew even at a young age, I don't know what to do, but we have to do something about it. I hooked up with some missionaries, and they started hearing the same things. They worked in Thailand. So they heard of stories of little girls going in and them just asking, what age do you want? And actually one person talked about, he heard screams from one of the brothels from the little girls, and that he ran in and ran out with one. Well, around that time, we started to really see, okay, what can we do? We came up with a plan: prevent, rescue, heal. So basically we would start prevention projects where we get in and we get these children before the bad guys get them. We go to the pools where the traffickers will prey on these children. So it could be a poor slum. It could be, like for us, the local garbage dump where the families are just in destitute poverty, they can't feed their children, so they'll sacrifice one to feed the 5. It will be, just in the rural villages at that time, 22 years ago, when they didn't have this awareness, and they would trick them and say, I'm going to have them go work as a housemaid in a rich Thai family's house. I'm going to put them in school. We're going to, do these different things. They're going to go work in a restaurant, and then they would be forced into a brothel, and the parents would never see them again. And they wouldn't even know where to look. Bangkok is an epicenter city. And so then once that happens, and the shame and, and everything, they can never go back to their village or go back to their parents, even if they ran away. And so started hearing about all this, and that was our plan. The prevention, we'd get to these children before the bad guys were. The second one was rescue, that we would actually rescue these children out of the brothels, out of the sex trade, out of trafficking, out of whatever situation that they were in, whatever form of exploitation. And then the last one was heal, that we would provide long-term care for these children, that we would basically be with them and walk with them through healing, medically, spiritually, through their hearts, just psychologically, that we were with these children, and they were going to be ours now, because they couldn't go back to the family that sold them. They couldn't go back to that exploitive situation, or they'd be re-trafficked or resold. We heard it over and over and seen it over and over again. So that was our threefold plan. And we started our first prevention home with 52 kids, went to basically those villages, got 52 kids, and that's how we started our prevention center. And from that 52 kids, I'd say about 6 to 7 years later, I was in this city, Chiang Mai, and that's where a lot of the children's homes or orphanages or even rescue homes are. And I just started looking around and I thought, are we really doing what we set out to do? Are we really fighting child trafficking? And it just felt like the Lord had shared to me, like, look up your eyes to the hills from where your help comes from. And basically, Thailand, we were surrounded all by mountains. And what I had come to find out later is the face of child trafficking had changed around that time when I went as 24-year-old girl, became mama to 52 kids, only committed 2 months. 2 months turned into 6 months, 6 months turned into a year and a half. The first little face I saw was a 14-year-old girl, and she said, I don't have a mom and you don't have a daughter. From this day forth, you're my mom and I'm your daughter. And I just knew I could never leave those kids. And so I had set my face to go work in Brazil, and that'll come later on. But so I'd never planned on Thailand. But at this point, I'd already been there, 1 year turned into 6 years. So I'd already been there. And I said, are we really making a dent? Are we really fighting child trafficking? And so when I felt like the Lord said, look to the mountains, and on the other side of the mountains were Burma. And at that point, the face of trafficking or children forced into exploitation started to change. There started to be a little bit more awareness. 2020 came out with a video in Cambodia of little girls doing boom boom for $8. And so and when that went viral, like the world started to know something about it back then. And so it was good in one area because it brought awareness, but in another area it caused it to go underground. And so it became harder for us on the boots on the ground that we're trying to rescue. They made more layers, like you had to do more protocol, before you actually got a child. And so it really made it hard. So I thought, well, are we really making a dent? So when I felt like the Lord had led me to look at that and look into Burma, what I started to find out on my border town, that there were 60 women and children trafficked daily down to the red light district. So what happens is whenever you have child trafficking, you'll always have a nation that's poorer than the other. So there's and it's a plan, it's a plot, because what happens is you can get 3 for the price of 1 in your own nation. So let's say America and Mexico. For the price of 1 American girl, they could get 3 girls from Mexico, from another country. And it's the same what happened with Thailand and Burma. So for the price of 1 Thai child, they can get 3 Burmese children. And then another plot is when you bring them over the border, they don't know the language, they take away their passport, they don't know who to run, they don't know where to go, they don't know where to run, they don't know who's good and who's bad. On our border, all of the brothels are owned by the local police. And so they don't know. And so they see the police come and they think they're going to get rescued. And usually what happens is the mama-sans, or the big mamas that pretend like their mom psychologically and take care of the girls and whatever their needs are, the big mamas will pimp the girls out to the police for candy or bribe money to silence corrupt police. And so we just started hearing about this, seeing all this, seeing that 60 women and children were trafficked daily on that border. Nobody had done anything. Nobody would start anything. And we just, one time, we're at the right place at the right time. I was on that border, starting to just really look and ask around. And all of a sudden, somebody was going to take us into a brothel that there was children in there. And so our connections fell through. All of a sudden, they weren't answering that afternoon. And I was just frustrated. And I remember I said, well, let's just go to lunch. And on my border town now, I wasn't moved there yet, on that border town that we were kind of scoping out and looking and hearing about these atrocities, we go to lunch and this little girl comes up to me begging. And she says, 10 baht, which is 30 cents. And I said, I'm not going to give you money, but I'll give you food. And she said, come with me. In the series of events, we found out that little girl was going to be sold down to Bangkok within the next 3 hours. And after negotiating with the mom, trying to tell the mom, no, stay with the daughter, we'll put her through school, we'll keep her. And finally, we realized the mom had already sold one. The whole generations had been sold. The grandma sold the mom sold the aunt sold the brother, they sold the niece and nephew. And so basically that was the next generation. And her sister had already been sold down to Bangkok. And so after negotiation, I realized there's no option for this little girl. She's going to go to Bangkok if I don't get her. And I said, what if you give her to me? And she said, if I give her to you, the traffickers, they'll kill me because I already took a $24 deposit on her. And I said, what if I pay back the traffickers the money that you took for her? for her life. And so basically, I really believe that it was a miracle, that it was an act of God. And so we got this little 8-year-old girl for $24. And that was our first rescue. And thus our rescue began. It now has turned into, right, currently we have 86 children on the Thai-Burma border in our family style safe homes. We have an underground rescue safe house that nobody knows where the location is. And that's where when a child is rescued, they first go through there. They go through safe touch training. That's where they learn that we're not the bad guys, that we're the good guys, because everybody in their life that was supposed to be good has been bad. Like their mother has sold them, their father has sexually exploited them, something has happened, and everyone that they think they can trust, they haven't been able. So during that time, we try to win over their trust. So they go to our rescue transition home from anywhere from, it could be 3 months, it could be a year. It depends on finally when they're safe and we can put them where they feel safe, and we could put them in their forever family on the promised land. So, and in rescue during that time, the Thai government found out from us. They heard what we were doing, and we were rescuing and Maine kids that were in the begging rings, that were really a part of the child, that had been sold to the child traffickers. We have so many of these videos on YouTube. And so, and all the different stories, we were getting all their key moneymaker children. And so they heard about us, and we started actually at that point. So one 8-year-old girl for $24 turned into 12. When we went to, we were driving past this place in this big children's organization. If I said the name, you guys would know. The little girl said, I went to school here, and we pulled over, and they said, how did you get this girl? And I said, you knew she was going to be trafficked? And they said, yes, we knew. How did you get her? And I said, if you knew, why didn't you do anything? And they said, oh, there's many kids like that here. We can't do anything. We're scared of the police, the border control, the government, everyone's in on it. And I just felt in my heart, you do something. I said, what if I do something? They said, if you do something, we'll get you 12 children tomorrow that were going to be trafficked, that we know, and we'll put them in your place if you get a place. And so I said, give me those 12 children, I'll find a place. So that 8-year-old girl turned into 12. And then that 12 children eventually, turned into 60. And at the point when we reached 60, we were in like a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom, concrete jungle, I call it. And the government started hearing about us, and they set up a secret meeting with us. And they said, we know what you're doing. We know who you are. And they said, we've been watching you. And they said, but we like what you're doing. Will you do what you're doing for the Kingdom of Thailand? We know that there's 60 women and children trafficked daily down to Bangkok on the border. And they said, we need help. We need a safe place to send them. Will you be the place? And it's in Thai, it's called a Satan Salkra, and it means a government recognized safe home. So we became the first government recognized safe home on the Thai-Burma border. And now currently we are on the, basically we're on the anti-trafficking task force. It's called the multidisciplinary task force. There's 5 people, the head of the hospital, the chief of police, the head of border control, a child protection officer, and a social welfare. A social worker. So life impact staff are the social worker and the child protection officer. And so that's how we started working in rescue. And at that point, the rescue phase had opened wide up. And to this day, it's still, and it's mainly national ran now. At this point, it's just safer for everyone. That it's national ran. And so that's our rescue side. And then the last one was heal. And that was what we always saw was we were not going to be an institution. We were not going to be this safe home. There's just a colder feel, that we wouldn't be a governmental kind of institution feeling, that we would do family style safe homes where they would get a mother that doesn't sell them again. They would get a father that doesn't exploit them, that they would know what a healthy unit is, what a healthy marriage is, what a healthy mother and father family is, so that they don't continue the cycles of exploitation like that first 8-year-old girl for $24, that they would stop the end of child exploitation in their own generation and in their own nation. I don't want to put a Band-Aid on it. I really want to raise up, I say it like this, we're rescued to rescue. So I want to raise up little rescuers that will stop it in their generation, and they'll go on to have healthy marriages. And so that was our creation with that. At first we only had that 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And then through a series of miraculous events, we got 2 properties. So we call it the Promised Land. And right now we just built our 18th family style safe home on those properties. And so, the homes have anywhere from 4 to 10 kids in each home. And that's the heal phase. And right now it's neat, but that whole rescue generation I talked about, now they are the rescuers. They're on our staff. They're our worship pastors. They're on the rescue team. They work with the governments. They're our interpreters. They work on the outreaches. We've educated them, and now they work in all levels of our organization. And it's just neat to see it come full circle around now, all these years later. A lot of them are on staff with us now. And so prevent, rescue, heal, that was the vision 22 years ago. And it's still coming to fruition right now. It's what we're seeing. And so that was Thailand, and that's where we're at. And then, so we didn't, at one point we were like, okay, we're just putting a Band-Aid on this. If the children that are being trafficked over, need to go to the mouth of the river. We need to go to the root of the problem. And for the Thai-Burma border, it's the trafficking from the Burma side. And so in that, right now, we're currently in civil war again in Burma. It has the longest running civil war in the world with over 60 years. And at one point, it had some of the largest human rights atrocities in the world. I think it still does, especially now with the civil war being popped open. But I heard had some of the largest numbers next to Sierra Leone for child soldiers, for child arranged wives, for child sex slaves, for the military junta. And so we heard about that. A place on our border, you can go up and you just see all along the water, children's brothels that just hold children. I literally saw it. We were taking pictures and we're over there and we zoomed in, and I saw like a 19-year-old boy with a tank top brushing a little 9-year-old, 10-year-old girl's wet hair and putting on red lipstick as she handheld the mirror. And another one stood garrison in the doorway. And I saw 3 little girls there. And it was just right over on the Burma side. And so we started a home there before the Civil War popped off again. We started a home there for those street kids, for those kids that were being trafficked. And then we also started 2 homes inside Burma. With the Civil War, we've had to move them to an undisclosed location for their safety in the jungles. So that's where they are now. So we've always had Thailand and Burma. And I say it like this: I've been faithful with what was in my hands, Thailand and Burma, all the while holding Brazil in my heart. So the way I even got called, everyone knows this because of Thailand, but actually the way I got called to work with exploited children was I heard a missionary from Sao Paulo, Brazil. I heard him come and talk about there are 300,000 children in the streets of Sao Paulo, and that you'll see 5-year-olds walking around sniffing glue, but not just because they're hooked on drugs, but to kill the hunger pains, because glue is cheaper than food in the city of Sao Paulo. And there's more kids in the streets than there is food in the dumpsters to feed these kids. And that basically store owners would pay off the police to line these children up, and they would massacre them, and they dump their bodies in the open sewages of Sao Paulo. And that you can walk and smell the bodies of rotting children in the sewages of Sao Paulo, Brazil. At that point, I didn't even know about the exploitation of children at that point. I just heard that. And when I heard that, I just remember tears just streaming down my face when I started hearing this, that these children would be treated like that, with no value, with no hope, just like animals. And at that moment, I knew I wanted to fight child exploitation internationally. I knew that was what I was going to do. I set my face to go to Brazil, and I got rerouted into Thailand, I would say, for at least a good 10 years before I ever stepped foot in Brazil. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, some people that I knew brought me into Brazil. And I was there going in back and forth. And finally, it came to a point where I knew that we had to start something in Brazil. And so we took a spy trip all the way up to the top, to the Amazon, and all the way down to the bottom, and everywhere in between. And every story we heard was worse than the next one. I remember meeting a little girl that had done things for Banana for her brother, and when she was 5, now she was 8 and 9. And when she got brought into a children's home, she would tell the children's home director, I want a cupcake. What do you want me to do for a cupcake? And just these children, that they were raised in this over-sexualized culture. and that was a normal route. Like it was different things were normal for them. It was normal for them to not just be forced into anything, but to freely sell their body for rice and beans. I met a 13-year-old girl, and she opened up her refrigerator and she showed me the full refrigerator. And she said, this is what I've made for the day with the family, with a big smile on her face. And I think the only thing I can, some of the stories for me in Thailand, and I'd seen a lot already, I'd seen little babies go for $18. My youngest was a baby boy, and at a year and a half, when we took off his diaper, he was messed with. We've intervened for twin baby girls for $300 that were sold for $300 down to Bangkok to a couple. They were on the market. I'd seen so many things already. I'd seen what 4-year-olds, the results of, even at 3 and 4-year-olds, them being sold and what had happened to them. And so these things that I saw, and some things it would be hard to share, but I remember just one of it that just, I think it really broke me. And it was, there was a mom, and her daughter was 11, and her daughter was holding the mom's hand, and the stepdad was raping both of them and saying, "Mom, make him stop, make him stop." And the mom wouldn't make him stop because she was scared of losing the money, and she's scared of losing the man. And it just broke me. Like, I just was like, this is a whole nother level. They're not forced. This is freely happening. And I remember the first story, though, that I heard in Rio de Janeiro. And I remember they said, "We're going to bring you to this house." This girl, she's now about 11 or 12. She's been selling her body for rice and beans since she was 8. Her mom, not her dad, her mom became a Christian, and they go to church, but they can't get the little girl to stop selling herself. Basically the drug traffickers want to kill her because she stole from them. And so she hasn't been able to leave this one bedroom, like just this one bedroom shanty. There was a curtain that separated the toilet from the kitchen. And so she couldn't leave there for 3 months, didn't see sunshine. And I remember meeting that little girl, and she was only 11, 12, and she had a red bra on and a little cut off shorts. And I was like, my goodness. And she was just smiling and had no clue. And so they're telling me this story, and tears are just streaming from my eyes again. And I looked at my interpreter, Hai, and I said, "Hai, can I ask you something? Am I understanding this interpretation? Like, am I getting this? Is this what you said? This little girl has sold her body and now you can't get her to stop? Like, can you explain to me what's happening here? Like, am I understanding right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I said it right. Yes, you understood right." And I said, "Well, then can I ask you something?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why isn't anybody crying? Like, you guys, like, I'm just looking and you're telling me this with straight faces. Like, why does this not bother you?" And he looked down and he just like took a breath and he said, "Because it's normal here, Lana. It's normal in Brazil." He said, "This is normal here." And I just remember the indignation, like the fight that rose up in me. And I said, "It's time for a new normal. This is not normal. Children should not be selling their bodies for rice and beans. Children should freely be playing. Children should not be having to be forced to do things for their basic necessity and their human right and their basic right. It's time for a new normal for Brazil." And I just remember like going from the top to the bottom. And at one point also, I remember just crying and my heart literally feeling like it was breaking. And I just felt like it was, especially after that story, like it was ripping, literally. I felt like it was literally ripping. I just put my hand over my heart and I couldn't stop crying. And I said, and all their faces and all their stories, I'd heard in the Amazon how the little, not just girls, but boys as well, that it's one of the sex tourism places for the Latin Americas, and how basically these yachts, they come along the Amazon River, and these little wooden canoes, they send out their children down to the yachts, and they send them out down to the yachts, and basically they do what they want and have these parties with these children on the Amazon waters. And that basically, if something went wrong, they'll just tie something heavy to the child's body and throw them on the other side. And that they said that you can hear the cries of the children from the waters of the Amazon, but it's too vast to patrol. There's not enough police. It's too vast of a river for them to do anything about it. And when something goes wrong, they'll send that, they'll tie the wooden canoe to the side of the yacht, and they'll send it back full of money to buy the parents' silence. And this happens it's very known in the Amazon for that. And then in Rio, the things that happen in the favelas, and the little girls selling their bodies for crack. We have 2 girls in our projects now. And then in the Northeast, just the poverty. And I thought that, hunger was like a thing in India and Africa, and we solved it a long time ago. And, it's not a problem anymore. But that's when I met that girl that sold her body for rice and beans. So all these faces and all these stories, I literally saw them and held them and listened to them myself. And so they were coming before my face, and I just couldn't hold it in anymore. And I just put my hand over my heart, and I was like, Lana, get it together. You can't have a heart attack. You're in the middle of nowhere in Brazil. Like, there's no hospital around. There's no clinic around. Like, get it together. We were driving from one city to another. It was like a 6-hour drive. And I just really couldn't. I was just crying so hard. And my daughter, I just grabbed her hand and I said, please pray for me. I feel like my heart's breaking. Like maybe my heart, I can't take it. Maybe I'm having a heart attack or something just from all these stories. I don't know. Pray for me. And my daughter just touched my hand and she said, Mom, I just want you to know, I'm not going to pray for you. I feel like God has heard the cries of these children for so long, and their cries have reached to heaven. You've only seen a little piece. Can you imagine what God has seen? You've only heard a little bit of stories. Can you imagine the stories that God has seen and heard? And their prayers and their cries have reached to heaven. And now, Mom, it's time for you to do something about it. We had you in Thailand, and now it's time for you to come to Brazil. And when I heard that, now later I found out Brazil is right there. It is neck to neck with Thailand, with some of the largest numbers in the world of children being forced into prostitution now that we're there. And so this is how, just seeing and knowing and really wanting to hear and wanting to learn and wanting to see, okay, where is the greatest need? Where is the light the darkest? Where will nobody go? And that's where we targeted. And so Thailand, Burma, and now Brazil. And so now in Brazil, we have 856 children that we daily, weekly prevent in our prevention projects. They're in 3 locations: in the Amazon, in Rio de Janeiro, and in the northeast of Brazil. In all of those, we strategically targeted those locations. And in the Amazon, we have a prevention project right next door to the red light district. And we're starting the first ever safe home in the interior of the Amazon. In the northeast, we just got a flip-flop factory. I think they're saying that we see about 250 children weekly there. We just got a bus. That's just at one project. We have multiple projects that we go to daily in that area. We feed them so that they don't have to sell their bodies for rice and beans, so that they don't have to go and work at 9 years old making bricks at $1.50 and not get educated, to get out of the cycle of poverty, so that they don't sell their children or they don't get into forced labor situations. And then in the last one, we just got in Rio de Janeiro, crack house. And it was in one of the most dangerous favelas in the world. A favela, if you don't know, it's like a shanty town. If you've seen Fast and Furious or something like that, it's like that. And basically, usually for favelas, there's one way in and one way out, and it's ran by the drug traffickers. And so when you go in, they have to know who you are, or you'll either be dead and they'll shoot on sight, or it's just that there's no other option. That's what's going to happen. And so we had some connections in there. And my project director of that area has worked in the favelas. Her dad was a pastor there. So she got us into one of the most notorious ones, which is City of God, and negotiated with the top drug traffickers. And they gave us an ex-crack house, and we turned it into a children's prevention center. We're seeing almost 300 children daily, weekly there. And in these projects, We give them child psychology for everything that they've seen. They've seen murder, they've seen rape, they've seen so much and been so much, done so much, have gone through so much at even such young ages. We have 10-year-olds that are hooked on drugs already, right there. And so we give them psychological help. We feed them 2 warm meals so that they don't have to go and sell their bodies for rice and beans. We give them some kind of vocational trade so that, again, they're not getting in the drug trafficking trade. A lot of these kids just think the only way out is to be a drug trafficker or the girlfriend or have a baby with a drug trafficker. That's their only way of prestige, of money, of power. It's the only hope that these kids have. They have no hope of ever getting out, especially City of God. There was actual documentaries about it. It's one of the literally most dangerous favelas in the world. And so, and if you see it, they're really graphic. I got through 15 minutes of it. I couldn't even watch it. That's how graphic it is. But in all of these prevention projects, they're like children dream centers, but in all of these prevention projects, foremost thing that we give them is Jesus, because he's the only rescuer and he's the only one that can bring hope and light in their darkness. So that's what we've been doing in Thailand, in Burma, and now in Brazil. And, a lot of you, I see some of your names, and a lot of you have been a part of it. So just want to thank you. And that was my overview. And I just want to open some time for questions if you guys have any questions.
Lana, thank you so much for giving us that overview. Even being on our team, I think it always just hits me when you just rehear it again. And being stateside, I think it's just a good reminder of the reality of some of these communities. And so we're going to pivot, as Lana said, to some Q&A. And so feel free to submit your questions through the chat, and I'll go ahead and send it to Lana. And so Lana, Kate Green is asking, what is our greatest need right now?
Hi, Kate. She won't tell you, but she's a fellow warrior on the Thai-Burma border with us in Thailand and in Burma. So our greatest need right now, because we grew so fast, and to bring in these children in our projects, our monthly budget doubled, literally like overnight, because we got the flip-flop factory and we got the crack house, and now the children that we reach, that 846 number, doubled in 3 months, literally. So our greatest need is monthly supporters. Like, we need more people we need more awareness. We need more people to join us in the fight. We need to get the word out. We need more people to get involved. And so we need monthly supporters. Or it was neat, but my sister-in-law just told me, she said last night, she said, God spoke to me and we're supposed to up your support. And then my grandpa, he's been supporting teachers in the war zone in Burma that we support. And we were talking, and he's like, I need to up my support to take care of those teachers. And so that's what we need. We need more monthly supporters, more awareness for people to join our cause, and more monthly support, because once those kids come in, once a rescue happens, they're ours, and so all of it. So we're responsible for all of it. And once we bring in these children, these projects, they're ours. So the gas in the bus, the rice and beans, like all of that. So more monthly supporters, more awareness, more people to join in the fight with us.
Awesome. And we have another question from George Ann Loveless. And she's asking, how did the drug traffickers give us a building in the City of God? Aren't they against trafficking as well?
Georgianne, great question. So actually, so they are very community in that area. It's kind of like if you think of Honor Amongst Thieves and Robin Hood, and you have to remember their children are in that community too. So their own children in their community, their moms, their grandmas, their families are in that community. So when we come and do something for the community, and honestly, they rule the people kind of like monarchy, and so the people could revolt, and get them out of power. They can't kill everybody in the favela. So when it's something that wins them the favor of the community as well, and it makes, it gives them power as well, we're doing something good, in that, then they're able, like, the people have kind of the vote and the power in those, like, because they're not ruled by the police, they're not ruled by the government. Those are lawless cities only ruled by the drug traffickers. So it's a way that will keep the people in line. It's a way that will keep the people from not revolting against them. It's a way like it makes them look good, and also it reaches their children. And you have to, like, in a way, they're kind of really community based actually as well. And they have children, you know, in that. And we actually had number 3 come to our inauguration. There were around 800 children at our inauguration. Number 3 came. I got to pray with him, and he said to me, he looked at me and he said, I've never seen what you're doing here. Never in my life have I ever seen anything like this. As long as you keep doing this, and as long as you're legit, we will protect you and you will never have a problem. Because they see a lot of corruption. And when they see like somebody really truly helping the people, helping their kids, helping their community, then they will protect you. But if we were corrupt or something like that, I mean, it would be over tomorrow. So they do everything they can to protect us, and they gave us their word. And it's crazy. I know it doesn't sound, but it is really an honor amongst thieves. It's crazy because, so what we had to do is we got a VW bug, and we put Life Impact on the side, and we always wear our Life Impact shirts. And so when we come, they're the one way going in, they know who we are. So you roll down the windows, you have your shirts, and you roll down the windows, and the guy with the AK-47, he looks down and he says, "Oi, chia," which means hi, auntie, hola tia, hi, auntie, in Portuguese. So we have favor with them, honestly.
I love that we have found favor in City of God through even their little kids. And because we are honest and trustworthy and being able to raise their own kids, it's given us favor to be in that area. We've got another question from Greg. Greg, I'm not going to try your last name because I will butcher it. But there you go. There you go.
I know him. Hello,
That's
sir.
awesome.
He's such a faithful supporter.
Oh, I love that. Greg asked, what are practical ways that we can help in addition to providing donations?
Yes. Tell your friends, tell your business, tell your family, look for matching programs. Let us send you, you know, some of our newsletter brochures, our annual report, some of our cards, and just give them to people, recruit other people to join in the fight, you know, dedicate a birthday to Life Impact to raise support. They have those, dedicate your birthday and just say, instead of, you know, for my birthday, I just want to bring awareness to this. People will do that. And I think in those kinds of ways, when you're influenced, you know, there's, I always say it's your time, your treasure, and your influence, you know, your resources. It could be different ways. So I say that your influence, your relationships, and usually right now these days, people are looking for who they could trust. Like, I love the Sound of Freedom, that it brought such awareness to us. But at the end, people were like, well, what do I do? You know, how can I do it? And I wish that they would have contacted organizations that they trusted, that were vetted at least, and put us there and say, hey, we've been doing this for 22 years. So I think when it comes from a lot of our people, we know, I would say 80% of our donors we know, because it's friends of friends or my relatives or something like that. So I would say, like, be an influence for us, be a voice for us, you know, be a recruiter for us. Like that's another way that you can join in the fight. Or even if you have any kind of knowledge or skill set, or volunteer in a way you can volunteer. I think on our website, there's a join us. And on that, and then you can just say, hey, this is my skill set. Can I use it in a certain way? Can I volunteer? Or, hey, I want to do a fundraiser. Or can you send me 10 annual reports or 10 brochures that I can hand out to 10 people, or, you know, at my work. So I think that would be a way. And thank you, sir, so very much.
Yes, no, that's awesome. Truly, I think, as you mentioned, Sound of Freedom has done a great job at raising awareness against this fight, but you would be surprised at the amount of people that still aren't aware of the reality of what's going on. And so, just to add to what Lana said, I challenge everyone on this call to really take arms with us against this fight by doing, number one, raising awareness, getting your community involved, and having the conversation about the realities that are happening all around the world. And you could use our resources to help tell that story even better. All righty. Ken Williams ask, do you have to navigate any corruption in the Thai government?
Hi, Ken. That's a great question. Actually, both governments are very corrupt, and it's crazy because we're right smack in the dab of it, and that's, I mean, in all forms. We've had to navigate, but we had to navigate, but basically we have not bowed. I will not. Everything we have, God has given us, and I will not compromise to keep. I'll lose it if I compromise to keep it. Then I will lose it, because everything's come from God anyway. So when it came time to pay taxes on our land, and even the land department was telling us to lie, like, even, for and to do less, so it would be less, and we didn't even have the money to pay taxes. I said, God gave us this blessing, and I will not start the foundation of it on a lie. And so and we have what's called the justice gene, and I have like a political science major, and it's basically, it's wrong, and so we will not compromise, and we will not be corrupted. And if I will not bow my knee to that. And if we have to, then take it, then just, we were going to be forced to, they were going to try to force us to do something recently. And they said, well, we can shut you down. And I said, go ahead. I wanted to take a vacation anyways. I've been doing this, and I've been in the fight. And so because I won't do it. I won't do it, and so I believe that if God gave us it, then he could keep us, and he could keep us from having to walk through corruption in that. But yes, I have faced it. It is one of the thing that eats me up probably the most, if you can, that injustice of it. I remember praying about it because I was so mad about it one day, and just praying about it. And I have to choose my fight. So my fight is to rescue children. So that's my fight. That's my battle. And I will do it without corruption at all cost. And so, yes, it eats me up. And it is two of the most corrupt nations, and the hardest to do even legal paperwork and different things, but we will pay the extra money. We will go the extra mile. I will hire the lawyer. We will do, and God will provide all of it. And so I will not build upon a lie, and I will not compromise to keep what only God gave me. So
that's so awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to quote what Krista said, because I think we can all agree. But she said, I'm so thankful for your stand on being honest and to not compromise. And so thank you for leading us in an uncompromising way. Lana, you mentioned earlier, as you were introducing Life Impact, that we prevent, rescue, and heal. Do you mind sharing a success story of a child that we have rescued? What was the reality that we rescued them from, and where are they today?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about some of them that are, I mean, I have a whole bunch of them. So just to choose one, my goodness. Okay, I'll give you one. So she was 10 years old, and we rescued actually the whole family. So they were a family of 5. 2 of them were sold as housemates to a rich family, and 2 of them were sold to housemates, and they have very deep stories. Actually, the mom died, the dad died, and they were put with the aunt and uncle. And so there was 5 of them, and so the aunt couldn't feed them. So the 2 went to go work for the other 3 siblings. One was only 17, and I think the other one was like 18, something around there. That not that much older. Maybe 18 and a half. And so they were housemaids, kind of more in a slavery situation. And then the other 3, there was a 5-year-old boy, a 10-year-old, and a 14-year-old. And so the 2, we knew that there was other things happening. What's very typical is they'll be housemaids, and then the owner of the house, he'll do whatever he wants to them. And then when he gets tired of them, they'll sell them to another family. And that happens over and over again. So that had been a situation in that. And when they came to us as a family, that basically we rescued the 3 children, and they said, we need our older sisters. We need our older sisters. And so we started praying. They broke out in chicken pox, and it was like a sign or an omen for the Thai family. And so they released them and kicked them out on the streets. And so we got the family of 5, and it was a real healing story for them. The 10-year-old was forced to go and work at a restaurant. And basically she said until her hands were bleeding, and different stuff had happened there as well on multiple levels. And so basically the family of 5, well, those ones that were sold as maids and then resold to another family that got released, they're now our house parents. And she has 8 kids. She just had her second baby, and she has 8 kids total, 6 life impact kids and 2 of her own. She married her husband, who he was an orphan, and we took him in as well. And so now, and they are the best house parents because they know what it feels like to be sold. They know what it feels like to be trafficked and to be orphaned. And so they're the best house parents. When she first came, her countenance, I could not get her to smile. Her count, she had so much trauma, so much shame, so much anger, so much hate. And so we had to teach her how to smile. And now you should see her. She's just smiling. She has babies. She's healthy. She has a healthy marriage. And now they're taking care of rescued children as well. And they're the best ones at the job. Then the other sister, who is also the housemaid, she takes care of all the babies because she's still single. And so she is a house mama as well. And then the other ones, one of our older ones now, I almost slipped. One of our older ones now, she's she's on our outreach team. She goes to the slums, to the dumps, to the highways, to the byways, and finds the next children and reaches those next children, because she remembers when she was in that restaurant as sold as a slave and scrubbing dishes and, just basically in this slavery kind of situation. And then the other sister as well, she's on our worship team. So I have 4 of them that are actually on staff at Life Impact, of that whole family, from house parents to being on the outreach team, to being in the prevention team, to being on the heal team.
So incredible. One of the most impactful moments I've had with Life Impact was during my last visit. They were doing the Friday night Bible studies, and I walked into one of the rooms, and we had the little ones being led in a Bible study, and a 15-year-old rescue child was teaching the little ones, and then a young adult rescue child was stewarding that 15-year-old. And it was just beautiful to see a generation of rescued kids literally pouring and discipling their very own. And it absolutely blessed my heart. So thank you for sharing that. We've got a question from Rachel Clark. She asked, are you in need of people on the ground? Do we need people boots on the ground?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have an application also that's on Join Us, and you could fill out an application there. We do in Thailand and Brazil.
Yes. So if you're interested in long-term missionary work, consider Life Impact. And then Ryan Staples has a question.
All right. Our resident videographer, photographer, all those videos that I said to watch, Ryan Staples is the mastermind behind it.
Yeah. Ryan says, can you tell us more about the national staff members in Thailand, Burma, and Brazil, and the many ways they are changing the kids' lives daily?
Thank you, Ryan. They are truly our heroes. Ryan says that because he's been to Thailand and Brazil, and he knows how hard our nationals work. So people don't realize this, but we have 77 nationals in Thailand in those 3 departments of prevention, of rescue, and heal. 36 of those are house parents, and they're the ones that are up with the kids when they have night terrors. They're the ones that are holding the kids when they're going through trauma, when they're wetting the bed. They're the ones going through all of that. The rescue is the ones when they get a call at midnight when something happens with a case. Our rescue team, they were just going to have a couple finally have a vacation, and they got a call and had to come back. They were on their way to vacation. And so our nationals run everything at 24/7. Our prevention team goes out into the highways and the byways, in the heat, in the rain, in everything. They are out there looking for that next child. So our nationals, they're our heroes. They're the ones that make everything run. We're just like the face and the support, and they're the ones that keep the mothership running, on the crew on the deck, the hands-on that are doing this. So 77 in Thailand, and then we have 36 nationals in Brazil. And in Brazil, again, it's those ones. So my director was the one that went and negotiated with the drug traffickers with the baby on her hip. Our Brazilian team is going into those dangerous favelas every day, risking their lives, you know, like literally every day there's shootouts. Sometimes they couldn't leave. They're the ones hearing these stories. They're the ones seeing this day in and day out every day, you know, and so they're the ones having to deal with it. They're the ones having to, you know, basically work with the traffickers, hear these stories, deal with the girls that come and they're 11 years old and they're hooked on crack and hear it. And so their hearts are so invested. They lay down their lives. They've given up a lot on both sides. You know, I have another one of my project directors in the Northeast. Her family lives in a completely different town. So she came as a missionary. A lot of them didn't even take salary in Brazil, didn't even take salaries for the first years. Like they came as missionaries. They're national missionaries and just came and gave their life for it. You know, they had a good life, good jobs. They can be doing anything else. And recently in the Amazon, we had a whole team, 7 people that went to start that safe home that left the city of Manaus. One has an architecture firm. They had their careers, they're young married couples. They were starting their families and they left everything, put their stuff in a moving truck and put it on one of the cargo ships and moved to the middle of the Amazon jungle to start these safe homes. So our nationals, they're the heroes. They're the heroes of this story, really. And they're the reason we can even keep rescuing and finding that next child, you know, and preventing, rescuing, and healing, reaching, you know, we say rescue, reach, rescue, raise up, you know, that next child, that next generation. It's because of them. And then in Burma, it's a war zone. And literally we have a couple and those families that are in a war zone. Like they could hear bombs. They've given their lives. We literally had to build a bunker in case the war came there, in case the bombs came there. And so their lives they've had to run a couple of times. They have to keep a backpack packed, ready to run. And so these people give their lives. I mean, they really, we could not do what we're doing without any of them. You know, and the house parents in Thailand, a lot of them are Thai citizens and the children are Burmese citizens. So they have to stay on our border. But the house parents are Thai citizens, and that means they can go anywhere. They don't have to stay on our dusty, hot border. They can live anywhere in Thailand and have any kind of job in Thailand. And they've chosen to give their life up for these kids. So they're the missionaries. I tell them, our nationals are our missionaries. They're our the heart and the soul of what we do. And we would not be able to do what we do without them.
We would not. They truly are our heroes. Yeah, they do it, and we're so grateful for their yes and that they would answer this call. And Greg has a great question. There's so many ways to get involved against this fight. How would you encourage mothers to get involved in this ministry without feeling the fear of the information that they may receive and come across impacting how they relate to their own children?
That's a great, great question, actually. This is what I told my team. I feel like every time we do a rescue, every time a child's life is changed, every time you hear about this, like you have to, I'm telling you these stories, but I get to see the faces, you know, I get to see the healed faces. I get to hear their laughs. I get to see them in our projects. And that's what actually we try to show a lot of is that. And I feel like every time you do that, every time you hear, every time you lean your ear or your heart, or just know that you're fighting for that one, you know, you just hear that one story and you allow your heart to be open for that one story. You remember that if it's just for that one, you know, then it's worth it, that you're going after that one. And I feel like where sometimes we get overwhelmed with information, but there's a story of the starfish when there was an older man and the whole ocean floor, there was a tide that came in and washed up all the starfish. And there was a whole ocean floor and it was like this overwhelming problem, right? And so this little boy starts picking up a starfish and throwing it in one by one. And this older gentleman, he comes up and he said, more wise, more mature. And he says, little boy, do you see this beach? Do you see this overwhelming problem? Do you see this? There's no way. You're not going to make a difference. You can't even make a dent or an impact. Look at it. What you're doing is fruitless. Don't walk away. It's not even worth it. And the boy, he thought about it for a minute. He looked down at the starfish. He picked up the starfish and he threw it in. And he said, it's worth it for that one. It mattered for that one. And I say it like this, like I remember Lexi, my assistant, we were walking in the favela in City of God with this story. And she actually was right there when we heard about the little girls selling their bodies for crack. She was right there when they were telling me, she saw their faces. And she asked me, how do you sleep at night? Like, how do you sleep at night? And I said, for me, I let the story of the one, like I know the end of the story. I've seen it over and over. I've seen children get set free, get rescued, put on dresses and sing and swing. I see little girls that shaved their hair off and, you know, just different things and came out with this beautiful dress like Cinderella for the first time. I saw kids that they'd never had a birthday party in their life because they were slaves. I saw them eat their first meals, you know, eat meat for the first time. I saw them play for the first time. And I see that it's the power of the story of the one. And when you just see that smile at the other end, when you just see the freedom of one at the other end, like that's motivates me. Instead of shutting me down, instead of depressing me, instead of discouraging me, and I've heard and seen lots of stories, it actually fuels my fire and it motivates me to go after the next one and to go after the next one and to go after the next one. And so it's the power of the one. And when you just hear that one rescue story or that one face, and you know, there's faces on the other side of our obedience. There's faces on the other side. If we keep going, we stay in this fight. There's one more child that's waiting to be rescued that is going to experience freedom. Like I think even at that movie, and they heard the kids playing and they heard them singing and said, that's the sound of freedom. And I think for me at the promised land, like at 5 o'clock at night, all the kids, it turns into Disneyland for kids. They're playing in the soccer field. It's like a movie, and we don't even stage it. Like they're playing on the soccer field, they're playing volleyball, and the little ones are picking the flowers and putting it in your hair and braiding your hair, and they're pulling you by your hand and asking you to come swing them, you know. And it's like that's the sound of freedom. So I think when you get that sound and you hear that and you hear that story and you read our stories or you watch a video, you know, and you see that other side, that's what gives you hope. That's what keeps you. Instead of shutting you down, it fuels your fire to go after and to rescue that next one and to hear about that next one and to pay attention and to lean in and to be praying for the rescue of that next one.
Ah, so good. So good. That next child is always worth it. I love that. Thank you so much, Lana, for sharing your heart. One of the questions that we've gotten a few times is how long will you be in the States and will you be traveling around?
Yes. I didn't plan to be so long, but it's looking like maybe till about we're looking at December 13th and 13th or 16th, and I'm pingponging back and forth between California and Oklahoma. So I'll be in between our Broken Arrow branch, our Tulsa. We have an office in Broken Arrow, and then I'll be back and forth between California as well because I had some speaking engagements here and different things here. So we'll be back and forth between that.
Awesome. We've got a few more minutes. So I'm going to hit you with these quick questions, Lana. Georgiana asked, what are the white things we see on the little kids' faces?
Everyone asks me that. Actually, it's called Tanaka, and it's actually it's a bark. It's a special bark. And what they do is they take that bark and they put it like on a mortar stone and they put oil on it. And then they put it kind of like a mud. And it's multiple things. It's a sunscreen for them. They use it as makeup because the sun in Thailand and Burma is super hot. And so it's actually a Burmese thing. And it originated out of Burma. And so it pounds on them. So they use it as sunscreen. They also use it to clear up your pores and to clear up like it's, you know, any kind of acne or anything. But kids use it for sunscreen and for makeup. And they say it absorbs when it's really hot and when you're sweating, it absorbs the sweat. It's actually really good for your skin.
That's awesome. And then another question is, have our children in Burma been safe? Is their safe home complete?
It is. I'm so thankful. We just finished their safe home. They are safe. They've been safe. They're doing a garden right now. I think they finished the bunkers already, and we did finish their safe home. We actually did. And so thank you for asking. They are safe. They're doing good. We have some new house parents that are coming in to join our team in addition to our team. And so we're growing. We're waiting. It was rainy season, and we just had such challenges building that home for war zone orphans of war. And so now that it's clearing up, we're going to be able to go into the jungles and to go and get the children that have been affected by war even more. But our current children, they are safe. It's been good.
That's so
Thank you
awesome.
for asking about them.
Yes, that was Jana.
Of course. Jana, I love you. Your baby shirt's in the mail. For you, those of you who don't know, Jana used to do our donor relations until she moved to be a youth pastor. But it's okay. God loves children over there too. God loves the children of America, the youth of America too. They needed you.
I'm going to share a question from Jane. She said, where do you start if you feel that you want to be on the ground to help, as my heart hurts for these kids every day? Or is it more helpful for the kids for me to be a monthly supporter?
I think you start being a monthly supporter until you see if you can be boots on the ground. Like it's, I think you start doing that. Like the first step is to be a monthly supporter. You start investing where you want to be. Like I always say, you sow into where you want to be. So if you want to be there, then you start giving towards that, and then just seeing and then taking steps towards that. I think it's more what you're built to do, what you're, called to do. I know there's goers and there's senders. And so I'm the one. I love to do both actually, but I know that I remember I used to pray to God, can I just work and go? Like half of the year I just work so hard, 80 hours a week, and then the other half of the year I just go. And so I feel like that's kind of a question. I feel like start giving, and then your heart will just start to get attached, and you'll start to see. And what I say is you start taking spy trips and start just really seeing, okay, is this something I could do, with my life? Can I move to Thailand, or can I move to Brazil? And so that's what I feel like. But I feel like whenever you give your money something, your heart's connected to it. So where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. So you start laying up treasure there, and then you start taking those steps. And I think you'll be guided once you see that. I always recommend for people to take a short, and it's actually a requisite for us, take a short-term missions trip first, take a short-term trip to see before you make any long-term commitments.
Awesome. And
we call it a spy trip.
Yes. For our last question of the night, Doris asked, if we donate to the US rather than a specific location, will the funds be used where needed most?
Hi, Miss Doris. Yes, of course. Absolutely. So the way it happens is we have our monthly budget. So just so you guys know, monthly $40,000 for Thailand every month, 42,000 for Thailand, 40,000 for Brazil. And then I believe it was about 4,000 for Burma. And so almost 90,000 per month. And so that's our general budget that we have to come up with. That's the house parent salaries, the diapers for the babies, the milk, the rice and beans for the children, our project, the gas for the buses. So yes, when you give, it will go directly into the greatest need. That's how we do it. We have to meet that budget first, and that's the greatest need for all of it. It all gets transferred the same time. It all is due the same time. All the bills for all the babies are due the same time.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We want to honor your time and commitment. Lana, do you have anything you want to share with our guests as we close out?
I just want to close by again just saying thank you to you guys. Thank you for caring. Thank you for hearing the cries of the children. Thank you for being willing to listen. Thank you for letting what breaks God's heart break your heart. Thank you for not being paralyzed and moving to action. Thank you for joining in this fight. I just really believe that there's a special blessing when you take care of God's kids. God takes care of your kids. When you take care of God's business, God takes care of your business. He told me that a long time ago. So as you are caring about God's kids, as you're jumping in this fight and the thing that's on the top of his heart, I really believe that God will take care of what's in your heart. And that's what we pray for all of our Life Impact donors. We pray, may the Lord repay you for the kindness that you've shown to us, to his children, and that too, as you've taken care of God's business, that God would take care of your business. We pray for your children, for your businesses, for your finances, for your family. As you're sowing those seeds, we pray, we really believe and hold it very high. We have prayer every Thursday, and we pray for you guys for that. So I want you guys to know that as you're doing that, and as you're just even taking your time here and giving your time, God, be looking, because once you start doing that, you're touching you're touching God's heart in a very special way. And God's heart is just really, I feel like God's heart is just really, I don't want to say, I don't want to, the way I sound, God's heart's just very touched when you really care about these things and when you care about his treasures that are sitting in darkness. So I just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you, and we really couldn't do it without you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. We will be following up with an email. This recording will be made available to you if you of you guys have asked that. We're just so grateful that you joined us tonight, and we hope you have walked away informed, inspired, and ready to take the next step to help us end this fight. Everyone have a great night, and let us know if you have any questions.
Bye.